Today's lesson is going to focus on multiplying polynomials. Alright, so when we multiply polynomials, you need to keep a few things in mind. One is the distributive property, two is some of our properties of exponents, and finally we will have to combine like terms like we have done previously with adding and subtracting polynomials. Alright, so let's take a look at what happens when we multiply a monomial, right, times a binomial. Alright, so we are going to apply the distributive property just like we would, alright, and we've seen this problem before. Alright, so when we do this problem, we would do 6 times 7x, alright, and we would have 42x, and then we would do 6 times 9, alright, so then plus, alright, 54. And then that would be our answer. And we've done this several times this year, and you've done that pretty much in most of our solving equations problems, some other work that we've done. The only difference is now we may not just have this one x term here. We may have some other higher powers of x. All right, so if we look at the second example here, all right, we need to do the distributive property. Now, once again, we are going to distribute to the first term in the parenthesis and then to our second term in the parenthesis. Now, a big thing to remember when you're distributing is that a coefficient is distributed to the coefficient, all right? A base is distributed to the same base. So in this case, I need to do negative 4 times 8, all right, which is negative 32. Then I have x times x to the fourth. Now, if you remember our properties of exponents, we would add those exponents because we're really going to multiply 5 x's. And then I would do the same distribution here like we did above. So negative 4 times negative 3 is a positive 12. And then I only have the 1x, all right, in a very similar fashion that I had the 1x multiplied up here. All right, so now if we look at the third example here, all right, same idea. So we're going to distribute this to the first term and then distribute this to the second term in our parentheses. So coefficient to coefficient. So 11 times negative 2 is negative 22. Base x to base x. So I have 5 x's being multiplied by 3 more x's, which means I have x to the 8th power. All right. Then in our second distribution here, coefficient to coefficient. So 11 times 4 is 44. And then base x times the base x. So we have 5 x's multiplied here by 1 more here, which means we would have 6 x's multiplied total. All right, so all right, we can look at another example here which has more than one variable. All right, so we're still following the distributive property. So we are still going to distribute here, and then here, and then here. So as we do each distribution, all right, coefficient to coefficient, base x to base x, base y to base y. So moving through our first distribution, negative 2 times 11 is negative 22. Base x to base x. So I have 5 x's here multiplied with 4 more x's here. So that means I'm multiplying 9 x's total. Okay, base y to base y. 2 y's multiplied times 3 more y's, which means we would have 5 y's being multiplied total. All right, so now our second distribution, negative 2 times negative 5 is a positive 10. Base x to base x, so 5 x's multiplied by 2 more x's would be 7 x's multiplied total. Base y to base y, so 2 y's multiplied by 2 more y's would mean we would have 4 y's being multiplied total. And then our third distribution here, coefficient to coefficient, so negative 2 to 3 is a negative 6. 5 x's multiplied by 5 x's would mean that there are 10 x's being multiplied total. 2 y's multiplied by 1 y means that there would be 3 y's total. All right, so that's how we would distribute a monomial times a binomial, a trinomial, and we could keep going. There could be 4 terms or 5 terms, and it would just be the same process, and then obviously we would just have additional terms. Okay, so what I would like you to do now is go ahead and try, okay, these 2 problems on your own, okay, and so go ahead and pause the video, work both of these problems, and then see how you do. Okay, let's look at the answers. All right, so the first one, all right, your final answer should be negative 72b to the 13th plus 16b to the 11th. Notice in this you have 2 like terms that you can combine here to get 2b to the 4th which will give you, all right, that answer in your distribution. All right, on our second problem, the final answer should be negative 48 a to the 9th, b to the 4th, plus 56 a to the 8th, b to the 5th, minus 64 a to the 7th, b to the 6th. And we know that this is our final, all right, answer. And so when we're looking for like terms, remember they have to have the same bases and all the same powers. So I can only combine this with another term that had an a to the 9th, b to the 4th, which none of these do. Okay, so now let's look at, all right, something like this. So what would we do here? Okay, so once again, we're going to, all right, distribute where we have, all right, our parentheses. And then what's going to happen is that after I do all my distribution, I can then combine like terms. So I'm going to go through our first distribution here. All right, so I have to distribute the negative 6x to all three terms. So coefficient times coefficient, so that's negative 30. 1x and 2 more x's means there are 3 x's total being multiplied. Negative 6 times negative 7 would be a positive 42. 1x multiplied by another x would be 2 x's total. And then negative 6x times 10 would be a negative 60x. Okay, so that takes care of our distribution in the first set here. Now what we need to do is distribute, all right, for our next parenthesis. So 9 times 3 is a positive 27. 1x times 2 x's would mean 3 x's total. And then 9 times 5 would be a positive 45. 1x multiplied by another x would be x squared. Okay, so now for our final answer, what we want to do is look for like terms. And I always look for the highest degree terms first. So we have a x cubed term here and an x cubed term here. So negative 30x cubed plus 27x cubed would be negative 3x cubed. I'm going to look for my next highest power. So I have a positive 42x squared here and a positive 45x squared here. All right, which means we would have a positive 87x squared. And then notice now we only have one linear term, or x to the first power, so I can just bring it on. And so then that is our final answer. All right, so what I'd like you to do once again is go ahead and pause the video. All right, attempt this problem on your own, and then let's check your answer and see how you do. Okay, so here's the answer that you should have come up with. 32x to the 4th minus 46x cubed minus 48x squared plus 32x. All right, so hopefully you're doing well with this. All right, so now let's move on, all right, to when we multiply a binomial times a binomial. Now, sometimes you may hear an acronym when you have a binomial times a binomial, and it's very important that you understand that this is only for a binomial times a binomial. Okay, and you may hear the word FOIL, all right, or read FOIL in the textbook. All right, and what that is an acronym for is all of your distribution. So multiply the first terms, then the outer terms, then the inner terms, then the last terms. All right, it's just a distributive property, all right, but I wanted you to be aware of this. That way if you see it, all right, or hear it, you understand what it's referring to, and I'll kind of go through that as I do a couple of examples with you. All right, so if we look at, all right, our distribution here. Now, we have a binomial times a binomial. Now, what that means is I have to distribute the 7x to everything in the second set of parentheses, and then I have to come back and distribute the 2 to everything in the second set of parentheses. So really what happens is it's really 7x times this. So it's really 7x times 5x minus 6, like this. And then it's 2 times this parenthesis. So plus 2 times 5x minus 6. All right, and then what you see is that it's really now two different monomials times the binomials, which is the problem that we just did. So 7x times 5x is 35x squared. 7x times negative 6 is negative 42x. All right, then 2 times 5x. All right, so that would be 10x. And then 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Now notice we get 4 different terms from our distribution, and those each are equivalent to one of the letters in our acronym here. So F is first, so notice 7x times 5x, that would be multiplying the first terms in our parentheses. All right, then we got the negative 42x from the 7x times negative 6, which is the outer terms. And then you have the inner product, and then you have the last product. All right, now the final step here. Now notice we're always looking for like terms before we finish the problem. Okay, and so what I see is here in the middle, All right, I have two of the same type of terms, so I want to combine those. So this would be 35x squared. Negative 42x plus 10x would be a minus 32x. And only one constant term, so I bring that down. Now, if you just do your distributive property, FOIL doesn't mean anything different. Okay, you don't have to remember FOIL. All right, just remember the distributive property. All right, so let's take a look at, all right, our next example here. So once again, when I distribute, this is going to be 6x times everything in this parenthesis. So 6x times 8x plus 9. And then I have to distribute 4 times everything in this parenthesis. So then plus 4 times 8x plus 9. And now once again, I just do my distribution. So 6x times 8x would be 48x squared. 6x times 9 is plus 54x. And then I come to my second set. 4 times 8x is 32x. And then 4 times 9 is 36. Now once again, as I look at this, if I have more than one type of like term, I do want to combine those. So right now I'm going to combine our 2x to the first terms. All right, so 48x squared, and then 54 plus 32 would be 86x, and then plus 36. All right, so looking at our final problem here. So once again, I'm going to distribute this to everything here. So 5x to the fourth times 4x cubed minus 7x. Then I'm going to distribute the negative 9x to everything in this parenthesis. So negative 9x times 4x cubed minus 7x. Okay, so now once again, once you do this problem, okay, now we have higher powers than 1, so we're going to have to remember our rules. Okay, so first term here, 5 times 4 is 20. 4x's multiplied times 3x's means there are 7x's total. Then 5x to the fourth times negative 7x would be negative 35x. 4x's times another x would mean there's 5x's multiplied total. Okay, now as I distribute this, notice this is a negative 9x. Okay, so negative 9 times 4 would be negative 36. 1x and 3x's would be 4 total in our multiplication. Then a negative 9 times a negative 7 would be a positive 63. 1x here, another x here means there are 2 total. Now once again, I need to scan my result here, and notice there are no x's with the same power. Therefore, all right, there are no like terms to combine, so we can stop right there. Okay, so now I have 3 problems that I would like you to try. All right, so go ahead and multiply these out and distribute, combine like terms when needed, all right, and then check your answers. Okay, let's see how you did. All right, so for the first one, you should have gotten negative 12x squared plus 11x minus 2. For the second, you should have gotten negative 14x to the fourth minus 23x cubed minus 3x squared. And then on the final problem, you should have gotten 12x to the fourth minus 18x squared plus 6. All right, so just a couple more problems, and then we'll be finished with the lesson. All right, so the last kind of problem is a trinomial times a trinomial. And all you're going to see is it's the same rules, but just expanded for a number of terms, because obviously, all right, as each polynomial gets bigger, we're going to have more terms in our multiplication. All right, so once again, our initial multiplication is I have to take each term in the first parenthesis and multiply them times everything in the second parenthesis. So my first distribution would be 8b to the fourth times everything here. All right, so 8b to the fourth times negative 9b squared minus 3b plus 5. And then I have to distribute this term times everything. So minus 3b squared times everything in this guy. And then I have to do 11b times everything in this parenthesis. All right, so you can see that it really becomes, all right, a lot of work here. Okay, so now once I do this, I just keep distributing. So negative 72, b to the 6. And then I go here. Okay, so negative 24, yep, I should have a b to the 6 there. So let me go ahead and correct that real quick before we get too far into the problem. All right, so b to the 6 minus 24b to the 5th power. And then when I distribute here, all right, I want to get plus 40b to the 4th. Okay, so now with these problems, we're going to start getting many, many terms. In fact, we're going to have 9 different terms combined. So once I do my first distribution, what I'm going to do now is as I do each successive distribution here on the second group and the third group, is I'm going to go ahead and align my like terms below this, all right, to help me gather my like terms, all right, and combine them. And you'll see how that looks here. So notice when I do my first distribution here, I'm going to get plus 27b to the fourth. So what I want to do is put that under the other b to the fourth right here. So plus 27b to the fourth like this. All right. Now notice when I do my next distribution, I'm going to get a positive 9b to the third. Okay, there are no other b to the third terms, so I'm going to just write that here. So negative b to the third, or positive b to the third, excuse me, 9b to the third. And then when I do my final distribution here, I'm going to get negative 15b squared. All right, no other square terms, so I'm just going to write that out here. Okay, and so the whole idea is I'm going to put like terms under each other as I distribute to help me, all right, gather all my like terms and to see all my like terms, all right, to combine them at the end. So now when we look at our final distribution here, notice 11b times negative 9b is going to be negative 99b cubed. So I'm going to write that under my other b cubed right here. And then when I do this distribution, I'm going to get negative 33b squared. So I'm going to write that right here. And then my final distribution is a positive 55b, and there's no other b terms. So when I do this, notice it really helps me see all my like terms. Oh, there's only one b to the sixth term, so I can bring that down. There's only one b to the fifth term. I can bring it down. Oh, there's two b to the fourth term, so now I just always have to combine these by adding, so 67b to the fourth. Oh, there's two b cubed terms, so that's going to be negative 90b cubed. Two b squared terms, so negative 48b squared. And then one b term. And so then that is my final answer. So as you distribute, okay, it's really kind of nice. Then you can line everything up, add them, and combine like terms right then and there. All right. So the final problem that I would like you to do on your own is this problem. So I'd like you to multiply these two trinomials and see how you do. So go ahead and pause the video, attempt this on your own, and then check your answer. All right, so the answer you should have come up with is negative 20z to the fourth minus 34z cubed plus 9z squared plus 14z minus 4. All right, that wraps up our lesson on multiplying polynomials. All right, so please bring your notes to class and any questions, all right, that you have over this lesson, and we'll answer those next time I see you.